Hello, everyone. This is Ali,
Hi, this is Tiara.
and this is the Goddess Vibration. Welcome back to another episode. Tiara and I were just talking about our podcast, and the technology we use matters. And Tiara's got a really funny story to share. So, we're going to start off the episode with this story.
No, the technology does matter, and I have a oh my god, what is this? An Acer laptop.
And it's
She's about
ancient.
okay. I mean, like okay, so at this point she's probably about 8 years old,
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
only
ancient.
using it because okay, well in technology years that probably is, but I'm only using her because my computer, like the actual one, it's an all-in-one. Like the screen got damaged when I was bringing it back from Colombia. And I don't know how it got damaged because I was so careful. Like I had it wrapped in the bubble wrap and I did it as a carry on because I didn't want them throwing it around like they do with luggage in the airport. And somehow it still ended up getting this tiny little crack. So I dusted off my Acer laptop and connected everything to it. And for the most part, she doesn't give me any trouble. But every once in a while, I do have issues with audio and like the mic, and it's kind of like a gamble, a gamble. I mean, like like she functions, and like my whole thing is, if it still functions, like why do I need anything else? I mean, it still works.
Yeah, until her screen starts falling off, and Tiara was like, I just popped that back in, and it's
I
still
mean, like yeah, so
functioning.
like the face flips off, but I just pop that bad boy back down, and she's good to go. And like the wireless adapter did stop working, the internal one. So all I had to do is get an external one and plug her in, and she's good to go. So you know what? Like, yeah, she's ancient, but she gets the job done, and that's all that matters to me.
You guys, this is like some of the behind the scenes of Tiara and I when it comes to this podcast. And we thought it would just be funny to share.
Okay, and so I also wanted to share an experience I had last night downtown with a youngin, a youngin. So
A
we talked about
youngin.
a youngin. So we talked about in another episode about how these younger men have been approaching, and I respect that. Like if you're a younger guy and you see an older attractive woman, like, and she looks good and she's put together, like, why would you not pursue that? Like, I would pursue that. So it was dead last night. I don't know why it was dead downtown. It was Friday the 13th, and so I'm wondering if that had something to do with it, but like there was just not a lot of people out. So I was like, I don't have anything else going on. I was trying to like drive. I do Uber and Lyft on the side, and I was getting no calls, no pings. And I even picked up a customer and they were like, oh, yeah, it's dead tonight. Like, we went to 3 bars and there was like no one, and a couple of the spots were closing because it was so dead. And I was like, I have never heard of anything like this. Like, usually on the weekends, I'm getting pings left and right for rides, but it was just nothing. So I was like, man, I'm bored. So I went and parked downtown next to one of my favorite sushi restaurants. And I like this spot because they have reverse happy hour. So it was like 10:30 at night. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get some like sushi and some like, sashimi, and it's gonna be cool. And I walk up and the I guess it was like the manager was like getting ready to lock the door, and he looked at me and I looked at him and I was like, what are you guys doing? And he was like, can I help you? And I was like, I mean, like, I wanted some sushi. And he was like, oh, yeah, we're closing. I was like, what? Wow, okay. So I decided to walk the other way, and I saw like a couple bars that were open, and I saw some people. So I was like, okay, well, at least there's some life over there. Let me just walk and see what's going on. So I start walking, minding my own business, and this guy comes up behind me and he's like, hey. I was like, hey. And he was like, are you walking by yourself? I was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, cool. Do you mind if I walk with you? I'm by myself too. I was like, sure. You know, he was really charming and really sweet, and he was actually quite cute. So I was like, all right, you know, I don't mind the company. Like, I'm not doing anything else. So he was like, yeah, you know, I'm headed to this club. It's called the Tiger Lounge, which I'd never heard of. And he was like, I'm going to go meet my friends. And so, you know, it'd be really cool to have like, you know, someone come along with me. Like, you can come join us. I was like, okay, well, I don't know you, but I'm open. You know, I'm open to this experience. So we walked for a little bit and we were just bantering back and forth. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to assume you know where you're going. And he's like, yeah, yeah, you know, it's in this direction. I was like, okay, cool. So we walk a couple blocks and I'm realizing that we're not getting to where he's talking about. So I'm like, okay, so where are we going? And he was like, well, I thought it was this way, but you know, let me ask. So he goes and he asks, we find another bar and he asks the bouncer out there, he was like, hey, where's the Tiger Bar? And he's like, oh, that's in the opposite direction. That's like K Street. And I was like, okay, we walked like 5 blocks in the wrong direction. But you know what? It's cool. Like, I don't mind chatting with you. And the guy, I knew he was young. So I asked him when we were walking, I was like, so how old are you? And I've noticed that younger guys will do this thing where they'll like share their age, but then they'll be like, "Oh, you know, I'm 24, but I'm gonna be 25 in like a couple months." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. You know, I don't care. It's cool that you're younger. Like, I don't mind that." And then he asked me my age, and then I was like, "I'm 39 years old." And he was like, "What? There's no way you're 39. What?" Well, you know, I don't discriminate. Like, I like them older, younger, and like in their teens. And I was like, "Whoa, buddy. Okay, okay." So we're walking, and then I realized like this is gonna be a long walk to get to wherever we need to go. So we need to take like a cab or something. And he was like, "Well, let's scooter." So you know, like those little renter scooters. So in Sacramento, we have something called Bird, and it's just like an app, and you can put your information in for payments, and then just scan the QR code, and then you're good to go. So I was like, all right, I love scootering. Scootering is so fun. I haven't done it in a while, so I was like, you know, it's open night. I don't have any plans. Let's do this. It'll be fun. So I'm trying to like get my app to recognize the QR code and it's not working. And then once I get it open, it's like, oh well, we need your ID and your payment information updated. And I was just like, oh my God, this is gonna take forever. So he's like, okay, well just get on with me. And I'm just like, I'm not getting on a scooter with you. Like I'm not, that's crazy. That's crazy. Two of us cannot get on that scooter. And he was like, no, I got you. I'll be safe. It's going to be fine. Like, I'll take care of you. You know, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh my God, do I want to do this? Like, do I really want to do this? Like, what if we fall? Like, like, so many things could happen here. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Fine. Just scoot over, get close to the front or whatever. I'll hop on the back and I'll just grab you from behind and we'll just see what happens. So I'm doing this, and I don't know how we fucking pulled this off because there is not a lot of space on those scooters. It's like they're meant for one person. And he was a taller guy. I want to say he was maybe like 5'11. I'm 5'10, so he was like just slightly taller than me. So I get on and I grab him from behind, and we're both on this freaking scooter. And like I noticed that he's like got a nice toned body and he's got biceps, and so I'm liking it, but like also having second thoughts and doubts. So we're going on this scooter and it's heavy, so it's going slower than it would usually go. But I feel like he's going so fast, and we're on the sidewalk, and sidewalks are bumpy, right? Like they've got dips, and like you got to maneuver around, you know, grass spots. And so like I'm on this scooter with him, and he's going so fast, and like every 10 seconds, I'm like, oh my God, slow down. Oh my God, slow down. I don't feel stable. You need to stop. You need to stop. And he's just laughing at me like the entire time.
They
And
do
I'm
that.
just like,
I don't know
why?
why, but they do that.
So we get a couple blocks, and I'm like, okay, I got to get off this and figure out where we are. So I noticed that I can't tell like if he had been drinking or if he was drunk or something. He told me he had pre-games before and had had some drinks. And I noticed that he's just so overly friendly. Like every other person, he was like, hi, how are you doing? My name is such and such. Like, you having a good night? Like, I appreciate you for being out here, and like at one point we run into a guy, a homeless guy who has a pit bull, and he's like, "Hey sir, how you doing? Let me shake your hand. Can I pet your dog? That's a sweet dog." And I'm just like, this kid is just all over the place. But I don't, I'm not judging that. Like, he seems like a sweet guy. So we end up going in a direction that I know is the complete opposite of where we're supposed to go. And I'm just like, I don't really want to be like bossing this kid around. So I don't really know what he's doing. And so eventually we run into another guy and he's like, "Hey, can you tell me where the Tiger restaurant bar is?" And I'm like, "I just told you twice that it's in the opposite direction on K Street. We got to go the other way." And the guy said the same thing. It's on K Street. It's on K Street. So we end up turning around and going back. And eventually we get to where we need to go. And like he kept doing this thing where he would get I would see a curb coming and I'm holding on to him, right? I'm on the scooter holding on to him. And I would see a curb and I'd be like, "No, stop." And he would slam the brakes and then I would like jump off and he would laugh at me. And I'm like, "I don't know why you think this is funny. It's not funny." So eventually we get there to actually don't even go to the Tiger Bar. We end up going to some place called the Dive Lounge because again, this kid's all over the place. He's like, "Hey, like, let's go there." And I don't know if this is a younger thing where like the attention span is just not there. So like every time he sees something shiny, he's like, "Hey, something shiny there. Let's go there." And I'm just like, "Okay, you are just everywhere." But you know what? Let's do it. Fine. You want to buy me a drink in the dive bar? Fine. I actually do like the dive bar because that particular bar has like a tank where women who dress as mermaids will swim and like, it's actually really cool. So we go there and hang out for a little bit and he buys me a drink and he's very overly friendly, right? So he's talking to everyone and eventually he ends up like talking to two girls and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna let you do your thing. I'm gonna go mingle around a little bit." And I come back to him later and I was like, "So that girl was really pretty. She was really cute. Did you get her number?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not gonna tell you that." I was just like, "Why? I don't care. I don't care if you got her number. Like, what's the big deal? I don't understand. Men are weird." So eventually we end up leaving and he still needs to get to his destination. And at that point, it was like midnight. I had had a drink and I was tired. And I was like, I think I'm going to go. And he's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Like, we can still go. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't mind." And I was like, "No, no, you go do your thing. I'm gonna go. But, I appreciate the time. I had a good time. It was fun." And he was like, "Yeah, it was great hanging out with you. I had a good time too." And then we parted ways. Now I wasn't sure if he was gonna ask for my number because I didn't stick around when he was talking to the two girls, and I think he did ask for one of the girls' numbers, but he didn't ask for mine. So I was like, "Okay, that's cool." However, in hindsight, I feel like I probably should have been like, "Hey, let's exchange numbers." And I kind of regret that I didn't do that because he was actually a cool dude. Like I wouldn't have minded like scootering again, maybe with my own scooter at some point. But like, yeah, that was my
Or
night.
making a friend, getting
Or
a
yeah,
hand,
even
see where
like
it
making a
goes.
friend. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so in hindsight, I was like, "Oh, I should have done that." He was, I don't know. Maybe he was shy. I don't freaking know, but
I don't
it
think
was
he was
interesting.
shy. I don't think he was shy.
I don't think so either. That's why I was like, "All right, well, it was a pleasure."
Yeah, guys, dating in 2024, it just gets weirder and weirder. That's really the only thing. This is really the only conclusion I can come up with.
It is getting weirder and weirder. And we wanted to talk about why so many people are choosing to stay single today. And I'm starting to get it. And I even was like, I'm trying to understand it a little bit better. So I ended up signing up for that whole Facebook dating thing, which it's really not the most interesting thing. But basically all it is you just create a profile, a dating profile in Facebook, and it's got like the whole swipe right feature like Tinder does. And I've only been on it for like a day and I'm just not getting any hits or matches. I don't know. I can't tell if it's just there's not many people on there or what it is, but it's not exciting. It's really not.
I know a few people who have signed up for Facebook dating. I'm not on Facebook, but I know a few people who have, and they have all talked about like what garbage it is. But what I can't figure out is it garbage just because of the platform itself or the users, or is it garbage just because that is the direction that we are headed in as a society where all the dating apps are become garbage. No one's making any real connection. The more that we get technological reliance, the more we lose connection to the self and who we are as people and real people connections. So it begs the question or the debate of, is it because of the technology piece, or is it just because the people who have become more awakened are just like, they see all the cracks in the matrix and they see all, you know, the drama and the mess out there in the world. And I think people are just deciding, you know what, like, people who have put in the work are deciding, you know what, I've put in the work, I'm healed, I see the red flags, I'm not willing to give up my own peace and happiness to pursue that hot mess and drama and whatever else, especially when it comes to energy that is no longer aligned.
You know what? I do think that that's a big part of it, but I do think that technology has also played a major role because like these online dating apps, like it gives you like a picture and a name, and then you're supposed to decide from that if you want to engage with this person. And I think that's so shallow. Like I don't think that that's enough to know whether or not you want to. And so it ends up creating this thing where it's all about looks, right? Because like the prettiest people are going to get the most hearts or likes or swipe rights or whatever it is. And if you're not like the most attractive person in the world, but you've got fantastic qualities, how would you know that from just a photo? And so I think that these technology applications, like they kind of dumb it down, and it kind of forces you to become more shallow when it comes to, you know, navigating dating. And so I do think technology plays a major role too.
I think isolation. It's been like the perfect storm. That is really my perspective on how dating has shifted. It really has been the perfect
Yeah.
storm where it's like, you know, MySpace and Facebook let us be able to connect to loved ones, you know, when we're far away from them. And then it just kind of turned into this whole idea of, okay, well, if we're connecting loved ones online, why can't we start connecting single people online? And why can't
Right.
we help people meet other people through online dating apps? And then I do think that the online dating apps had served a certain purpose and intention, but I think it has slowly evolved
Yes. Yeah.
into this whole very shallow, this very like materialistic mindset, especially with the way that the economy has shifted, where it's like we jump into survival mode and then we start looking for partners maybe that we wouldn't typically be looking at or looking for because of attributes that that partner can bring into the quality of life of the other person. And when we start thinking in terms of our needs and our wants and not from our heart and our desires, that's when relationship dynamics shift, that's when energy shift, that's when priorities shift. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's just been this perfect storm.
Yeah, perfect storm is actually a good way to describe it because, multiple factors are contributing to where we are. But, online dating wasn't always like this. You talked about how it's evolved, and it certainly has because my first three serious relationships were from online dating. And back then it was like, yeah, you had a photo, but then you had like a profile, and like you didn't have to pay to talk to someone. It was just like you could read about them and their hobbies and what they like and what they're into and get a better sense and gauge of, hey, do I want to engage with this person? And so in the past, it did always work for me. It's just, I feel like now it's just it devolved into something that it didn't used to be. And I think that like you said, like a lot of people are just like not content with that. They know they're starting to learn more about who they are and their worth, especially as more people awaken. And a lot of people are just like, this isn't what I want to do. I, I have mixed feelings about online dating. Like it's worked for me in the past, but I don't see it working for me in the future. And even now on Facebook dating, I haven't really liked the new formats. It's just it's it's unfortunate. And the social media thing is a huge contributor because you talked about how the economy has shifted, but there are these influencers, especially like on TikTok and Instagram, that are like, hey, if you're a woman, you need to find a guy who's got money. You need to find a millionaire. You need to find a billionaire. This is what he can do for you. That's what you want. That's what you need to be looking for. If he doesn't do this or do that, then you need to not even bother or consider him. And then you've got that whole woman. She's all like, sprinkle, sprinkle. I can't remember her name, but she says sprinkle, sprinkle. And she gives the most toxic advice to women about men, like just crazy, unrealistic stuff. Like if he doesn't have a job, then like don't give him your time or energy. If he's not like got money in the bank, if he's not rich, like why are you wasting your energy? Just like stuff that's so shallow. And I'm like, are women listening to this? Like it's just crazy. It boggles my mind that this is where we are when it comes to dating because it devalues actual true meaningful connection. And like it's a mess out there.
Well, not only is it a mess out there, it's just I know people who want to date who are so frustrated with the dating scene because of those influencers on TikTok. Like the ones that are just
Yeah.
like, go get yourself a man who makes at least $500,000 a year and, can provide for the household where you don't have to go back to work and you can go into your feminine energy. And I'm just like, in today's economy and in today's world, that is not practical.
It's really not. And like I get the sentiment behind that, right? Because so many women have been in their masculine energy. And we live in a society that kind of almost requires that. So women are tired and they're burnt out. And they don't want to have to like do the 9 to 5 forever and also have to take care of the household and also raise the kids. Like they're exhausted. So I get that sentiment and where it's coming from. I just think that there's a better way to go about that without only looking to the guy's bank account or only looking to see if he's got a trust fund, only looking for those guys in finance. I just it's there's truth in it and it makes sense, but at the same time I feel like it gets distorted.
No, it absolutely does. And I think bringing it full circle within the spiritual sense is that awakened people don't have the patience, nor do they have the tolerance to put up with that type of behavior because it's very tied to being materialistic. It's very tied to
Yeah.
insecurities. It's very tied into, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's more about what can that person give me and provide for me
Yeah.
on a 3D material level. People are
Right.
not thinking about like the actual connection that you have with that person, the actual like, do you connect on a deeper level? Do you connect with deep conversations? Like, can
Hmm.
you it's like people don't focus on can I grow old with that person? People are now focused on what can you provide for me in this instant that fits my needs.
Right. Like it's almost like everyone has become so selfish, like and shallow that I think there's a couple things happening. I think there are women that are looking and waiting for that whole rich guy, and they haven't found him yet. They haven't discovered this person yet, so they're holding off. And then there are people, men and women, who are noticing that even if you try to use the online dating apps, it's hard to determine whether or not there could potentially be a connection with this person. So it's like that leaves going out and meeting someone in person. And I'm going to be honest, when it comes to doing that, that's a newer thing for me because, again, all my prior relationships were online. So going and meeting someone in person is kind of a newer realm. And I'm open to that. It's just you have to actually get out and go out and do that. And I don't think a lot of people are really doing that either. Like I know I haven't really been. I haven't really been going out and putting myself out there. Like I'm busy. I don't want to spend the money. It's just I could. I just like, I don't know. I'm a homebody. I like being at home. My ideal scenario would be the guy shows up on my doorstep. But obviously that's not realistic. And I know that's not realistic. So I don't know. It's tricky to navigate these days, You have to like if you want more meaningful connections, I think at this point the best avenue is to just get out there and hope it aligns at some point because trying to do it online is messy. It's so messy.
So the reason why I started laughing is because so many women, Tiara is not the first person to say, I just wish that they would show up on my doorstep. That would be the easiest.
Oh my god, that would be the best.
And it's just funny because I have seen also TikToks where women are just like, why can't the guy just show up on my doorstep? Like, why do
Oh
I
yeah.
have to keep going out there? Why do I have to keep going to these bars? And why do like what am I even looking for? Because there's nothing out there. Why can't they just show up on my doorstep?
So I don't believe because I do think some women think this that like there's nothing out there. I don't believe that. I think that there's someone out there for everyone. I think it's just it needs to align, and I can't tell if people are impatient. I can't tell if people are lazy. I can't tell if people don't want to bother. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of a little bit of the last two. Like I want to meet someone, but I can't really be bothered to go out and do it because I'm just like, dang, I have to find a place to go to, and I need money, and I got to get pretty, and I'm just like, I don't feel like it. So I just sit at home, and like relax and do my own thing. Except last night, I don't know. That was weird. That was an anomaly that happened last night. But I think a lot of people just don't want to bother too.
Well, dating's really hard because people aren't healing. And I think that that needs to be addressed. I don't think enough people talk about people are not healing. And when people don't heal, then they get stuck in the same behavioral patterns. They just get stuck in a rut. They don't really like when we're in a lower vibrational state, we often think about ourselves all the
Right.
time. We think
Mm.
about what we don't have or why we're so unhappy or we wish things could be different and I wish my life could be different. But instead of just sitting there, thinking all these things on an endless loop every single day, it's like, what are you doing to shift? What are you doing to heal? What are you doing to become a higher version of yourself? What are you doing to become a more evolved version of yourself so you actually have something to offer people? And I think a lot of people don't really understand that when it comes to healing,
Yeah.
is that we become more self-aware and then we evolve into a better version of ourselves. And when we do that, we actually start to attract people were either meant to help or people that we're supposed to learn something from or people that maybe we get into romantic relationships with. But if we do not shift within ourselves, we are not going to be suitable for someone else.
That's true. And when you're more aware and you've started that journey and you try to go out and meet these people who haven't, like it is the most draining, boring thing ever. And like, those people who are aware and more, awakened, I think a lot of people kind of recognize that. And like, if you're trying to go out and navigate the scene in that state, like, it's just so hard to relate and connect to anyone who hasn't done the shift and hasn't done the inner work. It's just like boring. It's so boring. You can't connect. So, it's so tricky and there's so much to take into consideration. And I think at this point people are just like, well, I'm just gonna sit at home and do my own thing, and I don't know, maybe someone I'll stumble across one day, maybe not. And to each their own. I think that that's understandable at this point.
Well, another thing about being a healed person, because I'm a fairly healed person and I have a lot of self awareness, and I see red flags quicker in people.
Oh yeah.
And when you see the red flags, it's like, then you have to ask yourself, is this person worth giving my time and energy to? Do you actually see this person shifting? And based on past experiences, what I've learned is that if it becomes an attachment, people get very complacent in the attachment where it's like, well, I know that they're never going to leave me. Like, look at all the love and support they're giving me, but they think that they're never going to leave me. So why do I have to shift?
Yes, I see that a lot in certain long-term relationships where
Exactly.
like one person's evolving and the other person isn't really, but they know the other person isn't going to leave them, so they're just like, oh well,
Exactly.
oh yeah, I see that all
And
the
then a
time.
very unhealthy attachment forms, and then that kind of shifts into your new normal, and that's when you shift into the new relationship. And so that's why energy and alignment really matters, like when it comes to actually connecting to someone. And I feel the awakened people are choosing to stay single for those very reasons.
Absolutely. And I was reflecting on like the guy I met last night, and he was actually very charming, very well spoken, and very insightful, very respectful. And he even said, he was a black gentleman, and so he made it a point to tell me that he loves black women and prefers black women, and was like, I want a family with a black woman, and I respect the beauty of a black woman. And I was like, okay, I'm liking all of this. So I saw like potential in him, like when it came to, okay, if I could like, you know, spend a little bit more time with him, I could probably get him to see a couple of things, like, but I don't know, we didn't obviously get to that point. It's just like there are people out there who have the potential to shift. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what it really takes. It's just making that right connection and working, talking to them a little bit. And even if you're meeting someone like that and you just talk with them and you're an example, that could be enough to help someone shift in some ways. Like, you never know.
Tiara is right. You absolutely never know. And I've met people that it's so tempting for me because I'm really good at noticing potential, and I'm just like, "Oh, I see your potential. It's how do I get you to see your potential?" And then
Um,
it's like that kind of intriguing chase for me of like, I see all the potential. I know who you can be. It's just, do you have what it takes to be that person? And then it falls back on me on whether or not I want to put that time and energy into that person.
right. And I got a lot of that sense from him. Like, there was an intrigue with him there where I was like, I kind of see a little bit of potential in you here. I just, I don't really know you. I would need to spend more time with you. I didn't get his information, so who knows if I'll ever see him again. But it's interesting. I keep getting this sense that I'm going to run into him again or see him again at some point. But like, yeah, it was very similar. Like, there was an intrigue around that with him. So it's interesting that you brought that up.
Well, intrigue is all it takes.
Right?
And there are definitely some intriguing people out there.
Yeah, there are. These are like the people who are kind of like, I don't want to say on the brink because, well, maybe like on the brink of like shifting in some ways or like having those massive shifts. They just kind of need like a nudge or like a push. There are a lot of those out there. I'm noticing, especially men,
But I feel
and they're all in
like,
their 20s for some reason.
yeah, I don't know what is going on with men in their 20s. I can't psychoanalyze that.
I have my theories. I think I shared those. Did I share those?
Maybe.
Like one of my theories was that, and this makes sense, that if you're a younger guy and you are seeing these older women, and especially the millennial women, like the millennial women are gorgeous. Like they're beautiful. They're aging so gracefully. They look so good and they're mature. A lot of these women are doing like, well, I can't say a lot, but a good amount of them, especially the ones that are more aware, they're doing that inner work. They want to change and be better. And I think that these younger men are seeing that and they're just like, dang, like, let me get some of that. And I get that. That makes sense to me. I get that.
You did share that.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And I saw a guy on TikTok who was mentioning that too. He was just like, millennial women look good. And if you're a guy and you're a younger guy and you are seeing these good looking millennial women who got their stuff together, like, why would you not pursue that? And I was like, I don't have an argument.
I don't either.
Right. So that's why, like, nowadays I kind of like the guys, these younger guys that are approaching. I'm just like, oh, I get why you're here.
At first, like when it started happening to Tiara here in Colombia, she was just like, "Why is it? What's happening? I don't understand. Why are they coming out of the woodwork? Where are they coming from? What is happening?"
Well, I got thrown because the first one was 17 years old. And like, come on. I mean, 17. Like that's so young. That's a teenager. And so it kind of threw me for a loop. And I was like, it's so funny because I was having conflicting emotions and I was like, all
A
right,
lot of conflicting emotions.
like I like this, but it feels wrong, but I like it. So like, what do I do? So it like yeah, so like the first guy, he was 17 and then the other guy was he 21?
He was 21.
Oh my goodness. But he was really cute. And so I was like, all right, the same conflicting emotions are coming back. But now that I'm looking more into the men's perspective on it, like I get it. I do get it.
And I think Tiara brings up a very valid point is that there is always two sides of each story.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tiara and I have our sides on like why we choose to stay in our protective space and why we choose to protect our energy. And, that's just what happens when you heal and you evolve and you grow and you get more self awareness. But there is a whole other side. And I really try to find that balance with people because people do deserve connection. People do deserve chances, especially if you see the potential there and if they're curious and if they want to know information. It's just like, who the hell am I to say no? It's just like it's harder and harder to find people who are more curious about awakening and curious about healing. And it's just like, if anyone wants to take that journey, like as light workers, as Tiara and I are healers, like who the hell are we to say, like, no, go away? So it's really hard to find that
I
balance of
know.
finding peace with our own energy and our own time, but also giving it to those who seek it.
Right. And, I fully agree. Like if that gentleman was curious about spirituality and, some of the things I do and wanted to know more, I would absolutely not say no to that. I wouldn't. I'd be like, all right, well, let's go get some coffee, and we can talk about this and then we can go scooter.
Oh my God, that sounds so fun.
Doesn't it?
Yes. That sounds like the most fun day ever.
Right. So I don't know. It's interesting out there, and it's what else is really interesting is that I don't know why more older men aren't seeking some of that. Like, it seems like the younger guys that are like the curious ones and that are like more open minded and want to know, but like the older gentlemen, like they don't seem to be as interested. They don't really approach either. And I don't know what that's all about.
Why do younger men have more balls than older than older
I
men?
don't know. And the older men, they're probably a lot of them are probably married, or maybe divorced, and maybe they've got like some like negative sentiments around relationships. I don't quite know what it is, but it seems that it's the younger gentlemen that are like, "Hey, girl, tell me about tarot and divination and channeling." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay, let's go."
That's so interesting.
Isn't it? I don't know
Yes,
what it is.
neither
Yeah,
do I.
but I'm still open to older men, and my general preference is older men. And it's always been that way. Like, even in my 30s, like early 30s, late 20s, I was like, nah, he's got to be like 35 plus, 40 plus. And it was the same thing. It was like the older men, they're more put together, they're more mature, they've got more money. And that was appealing to me. And it still is. It's just these days, I don't know. Like, I'm not seeing the older men coming out like the younger guys are.
Well, you have to understand, older men are also more set in their ways. Like they
That's true.
become more stubborn, they become more set in their ways, they get more put into their routine. Especially successful single men are just like, why do I want to bring, like, I'm already established, so it's like if I'm going to open my home to this person, like have to be someone really special. And that's the point of view I see from the men's side.
Ah, interesting.
Right. It's like you bust your ass, like you have more experience in relationships and you bust your ass in your career and you've like established yourself. So it's like if I was in his position, I would be very particular about who I'm about to walk into my life and rock up my entire world that I have spent most of my life establishing.
See, I always thought that older men had a thing for younger, like preferred younger women. I don't know. Maybe that's just a
I think it
stereotype.
just depends. Well, I think it just depends. I think it depends on what their priority is. If it's looks, then yeah, they're most likely going to go for younger. But if they want someone in terms of like emotional intelligence and maturity and stability, if that's the priority, you're going to attract someone with a more meaningful connection versus someone just like hot and more of a trophy
Yeah.
wife.
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on the whole trophy wife thing.
Okay, we won't. So I think it just depends. But I do see that point of view, like from the male's perspective.
Yeah. And it also makes sense. I get that. It's just, I don't know. It's just curious that I'm not seeing the same emphasis and interest from the older men that,
Okay, well,
for
here's
example, I
another
did in the
thing.
past.
Okay, well, here is another opinion or perspective. With the feminist movement, would you say that men are feeling more emasculated the more that women come into their masculine energy?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I would
Absolutely.
also say that that plays a very big factor on where the older men have gone because now we have like these more empowered women in these powerful positions now as equality is still, is still trying to catch up in the workforce. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like men are having identity crisis with all these women who are now in higher positions making more money than they are. It's just like, okay, well, where do I fit into this equation when we are specifically looking at society and societal social norms?
Absolutely. Yes. That's another contributing factor, I think, when it comes to people who are staying on the sidelines, especially men, especially if you're a guy that's like in middle age, so you're not necessarily older, but you're not like in your 20s. I think that that specific generation, like the millennial men, for example, are kind of having a bit of a crisis when it comes to some of that.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's been the perfect storm. There isn't just one reason
Right.
why dating is rough, and there isn't any one reason why people are choosing to stay single. It's like a perfect storm of everything of how we have evolved as a society that has left people feeling insecure, emasculated, empowered, all of these different things. And everyone's just like, I don't know how to deal with the energy out there. I don't know how to deal with people, everyone's responding to the weirdness of this planet in their own way.
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to be so focused on themselves. It's like people don't even have time for anyone else.
Right, especially now with the economy and everything exploding in price. Like a lot of people are just so busy working that they don't have time to go find someone or allow another person into their life because they're putting so much energy into surviving.
Exactly.
But I will say that there is like a subset of men that seem to be embracing that shift where women have kind of emasculated them and they're just like, hey, you make more money than me, great. You can buy me dinner and you can take me out and you can give me gifts. And I'm perfectly cool with that. And hey, if you're a guy and that's your thing, you'll probably do pretty well these days. I personally don't think that that's the dynamic that we were meant to have as a species, when it comes to women being that more emasculated masculine energy. But hey, to each their own.
I don't think that we're intended to be that way either, which is part of the reason why I think society as a whole is going backwards and people don't really know how to handle it, men and women, because
Yeah.
women are burning out in their masculine energy. Like we've needed to go into our masculine energy and step up because mostly because of surviving in the economy. But we're not intended to be in that energy, therefore leading us to a burnout eventually. Burnout's going to happen, whether it happens 6 months from now or whether it happens 5 to 10 years from now. Burnout will catch up to you and it will wipe you out for years.
Years. And
Years.
oh my God. And I see these women that are just doing this. And I've talked before about my one friend who has been able to do this and like total power woman. Like she's got like 5 degrees and she's got a nonprofit and she's an author and she works full time. And she's also been trying to date. And I'm just like, how do you do all of this? And the interesting thing about her is that she has been so heavily in her masculine energy that she has been pursuing men. Like she's made herself the pursuer. And it hasn't worked out for her. And so, I'm just kind of, I don't want to say waiting, but like I sit back and I'm just like, oh my God, you're gonna burn out and it's gonna be so bad. But when it does happen, I'll be there for you. It's just like I think she just kind of needs to learn that lesson on her own because I've been saying to her for years, like, oh my God, you are doing so much. You have no space for anything else. You have no space in your life for a man. How do you think you're gonna find someone when you're doing all this stuff? And I don't know how she does it. She's been doing it for the better part of a decade, and I respect her. And I'm just like, go for you, go, girl, good for you. But at the same time, I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh, when she crashes and burns, it is going to be life altering.
Oh, it's gonna be diabolical, but
Exactly.
I'll be there for her because I was in that space, and both my sisters and we all burnt out after having been in our masculine for so long, and it's just I don't know. It's the natural state of things. It's I feel like it's prompted by the energy shifts on the planet because the shifts on the planet want balance restored. And so if you're feminine and that masculine, eventually it's gonna catch up to you at some point, especially if you're girl bossing so hard. And I did the same thing. I girl bossed for years and years and years until it wiped me out. And I'm still recovering. It's been like, oh my God, how long has it been? Almost 4 years, 5 years, and I'm still recovering. That's how intense a burnout can be.
Oh, I burned out too. I definitely burned out too. I was such a go-getter and a type A personality that I was like, no, I'm just going to go after what I want and I'm not going to stop until I get it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when a lot of people enter that mentality, burnout is going to follow. Promise, guaranteed, burnout will follow.
Right. And then once that happens, that's when you have that mental shift where you're like, oh no, I need a masculine man to like step up and lead, and I will
Exactly.
yield, and I'm going to be the housewife, and I'm going to go back into that traditional role, because you're almost forced to. You're forced to go back to that natural balanced state. And I think a lot of women, as you mentioned earlier, are there, and now they're like, oh, I don't know what to do anymore.
Right. And I feel like because the energies within each human being has shifted so much that we are not in the roles that we are intended to be in. And I believe that that also plays in the perfect storm of why dating is such a mess and why people are choosing to be single.
Do you think this whole thing of people sitting on the sidelines right now is like that catalyst to rebalancing everything?
I sure hope so. Or why else are so many people just sitting on the sidelines accepting to be alone and lonely and sometimes depressed? And because people want to be in relationships. I mean, I know plenty of people who want to be in relationships but are unwilling to shift or change or compromise. And I feel like people are so stuck in their ideal person that they are limiting themselves and limiting their options before they even get to know someone.
I think we've all done that because I've done that.
Well, of course, I've done that too, but I feel like it's becoming more and more of a problem.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're writing people off before we even get to know them or say hi to them. It's like we
Yeah.
look at them and we're making judgments on them, saying they're not this, or I'm not attracted to them, or oh, he works in this as a profession, or he doesn't make enough money, or whatever reason.
And what is this thing about every guy needing to be over 6 feet? I have
I
seen that a
have
lot.
no idea. I have no idea. You know, I have a friend and he often says that like women have become so delusional. Like women are just like they have to be at least 6 feet tall and they have to make a half a million a year and they have
Right.
to own their own home and they can't live at home with their parents and they have to have like a trust fund and a 401k and they have to drive that nice car and I'm just like that's a lot. Like what about them being a good person? What about
I
them
know.
having compassion? What about them being kind to others and animals? Like
Right. Right. And yeah, I blame influencers. I blame social media for some of that sentiment around those unrealistic expectations that a man must carry in order to be worthy of a woman's presence. Because I've seen some of those
exactly, so have I.
where they're like, he needs to be worthy of your presence, and if he doesn't make 100 grand, then he's not. And I'm just like, oh no, we're done as a society.
And we don't mean to laugh, it's just it's sad. I'm
It
honestly
is.
sad.
It is. But like, you know, I get it. We get it. It's just I really hope that this pause that we're all taking is a catalyst to something better, a catalyst to shift back into that balance and, go back to really looking at authenticity and connection as the primary focus when it comes to meeting someone and getting to know someone. I hope that we are starting to shift back into that, because what we're doing now is not sustainable at all.
It's not working. And I like Tiara and I can tell you as like single women, it's just like we are looking for that balance of obviously who we give our time and energy to, but also because Tiara and I have done more of the healing work and we are more self-aware, it's like also finding that balance of seeing people with that potential and whether or not
Yes,
like we
yes.
want to help those people.
Yes, and like like we said earlier, I'm open to a guy that has the potential as long as he's willing to listen and like, be receptive. I'm totally open to that.
Definitely. So I hope all you single people out there, male or female, I hope you guys extract something from this episode just about, really wanting a deeper connection or having a deeper connection even with yourself, because I feel like that's honestly where it needs to start with every single person, is really connecting to yourself and learning what's important to you and what your how to evolve into your higher self and what your higher self wants for you, which is deeper connection, soul connect. You're connecting on a deeper soul level where it's like there's a deeper understanding that goes beyond the surface physical 3D
Yeah.
perspective that we're all looking for, because everyone's just immediately thinking of like, how am I going to get food on the table, or, where am I going to live? Where's that next roof coming? Where's my next roof going to be? And people are losing sight on deeper interpersonal communication and deeper connection.
Right. So, if that guy doesn't have 100 grand in his bank account and maybe doesn't drive a Maserati and maybe doesn't have 3 degrees, but you have a deep connection with him, give him that chance. You never know what could happen.
Well said. So, to all the single people, Tiara and I get it. We've been there. It will get better. Just don't give up. I mean, obviously, you know what they always say. Love always comes when you least expect it. Well, that even though there's truth to that, what you need to know is that you also have to be open and willing to receive it. And I don't
Hmm.
think people really understand that aspect of, like I've done the work, but I'm not finding anyone. Well, it's like, what is your energy saying to the world?
Right. And do you even have space in your life for that?
Exactly.
Because I noticed that too, especially with my friend. Like, there's no space. Like, you don't have any space for another person to deeply connect to them because you're so busy doing all these other things. So I do think that that's something that should be considered and reflected on as well.
Absolutely. So, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We have our community up and running. Please stop by if you guys are curious. It's, what is it, Tiara? Patreon.com/vibe higher.
Yes, or you can get there from our website, goddessvibrationstudio.com.
Awesome.
All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll chat with you again soon.
Everyone, have a great week.
Bye
Bye.
bye.